I am not driving. Josh is driving. I have a Gen Mun with me, hanging out with me. In my ear is student Leo, of which today is Christmas, and I'm traveling to see Leo, a very bright, early praise and promise student. Got presents for him. He's in my ear. He's asking, we're talking about on the subject of discipline, and right now we're talking about phones, addiction to phones, addicted personalities. Some people who have addicted personalities or they tend to just be addicted to things. Sometimes drug, alcohol, sex, sometimes phone, social media, and so on. So he asked me about what's going on with how do I perceive the way how he disciplines himself with social media, phone, and the outside world. So my answer to you is that yeah, our world, ever since the iPhone came out, iPhone 3 came out, and the phone became somewhat of a smartphone, and the PhDs in psychology, the ding-dongs, who use psychology for the wrong reason, started to compete for our attention. It causes us to be addicted to certain misinformation, addicted to fear, addicted to information that provokes fear, addicted to shopping to fill the empty void, addicted to human bodies because we were designed to want to look at human bodies, imaginations and fantasies. And this is why smart students like you, who knows that, now you take the corrective measure and action of, yeah, I don't want to be addicted to this anymore. And this, I number one, don't think and equate that information for truth. A lot of people do that, and then the Gen Zs and Alpha now, they cite 5 other TikTokers as facts. Like, well, I heard this from 5 other TikTokers, so it becomes facts and truth to me. That will subsequently register as core beliefs and could be core values of what you study in CBT. I think that's some of the first few chapters. The first 3 chapters talks about core beliefs, I think. You have the book. I don't have the book in front of me. Well, wait, can you repeat that? It sounded like it was jammed on the phone. Yeah, it's core beliefs just means that it's been ingrained. You ingrained it into your deep psyche, subconscious, unconscious, stored into your memory, your operating system, your iOS of your mind. That's what. It's very hard to change someone's deep core beliefs. Oh no, just stay here, stay in this lane, because it's gonna split lanes up there. It's very hard to change someone's deep core beliefs and mind. But look at relationships alone. When you oh my God, my throat. Jesus. When you have an impression on another human being, like when you date them, a male or a female, and you see certain behaviors, so your senses are open. Now this goes into Buddhism. So you watch, so your eye sense consciousness is open. You see things and then you translate them. You attach meaning to their behavior. You're like, wow, this person's really reckless. You know, you're reckless when you're driving, you're reckless when you're drinking, you're reckless when you're putting on clothes. This person's really reckless. And then you're just like, this is the impression that you have of this person. And then somewhere down the road, you know, good things or bad things that happen, hopefully more good things happen. But you know, when there's that time to like wanting to break up, you think about the impressions that you have formed. Matter of fact, the first 3 minutes of meeting someone, you're already forming an impression about them. That's why people dress nice, because you don't have a second chance for first impressions. And yeah, you know, so you know, you will resort back to deep core beliefs about this person, your core impression about this person. You know, like, nah, I can't continue with this person because it's just reckless. Reckless equates to danger. Dangerous and reckless. You know. Matter of fact, that's one of the things that I tell people in driving school, in driving class, and I'm like, I'm looking for patterns of recklessness. And then they display it to me not even knowing that they're displaying reckless behavior. And I'm like, and I have to call them out. It's like, I find myself the referee. That's why I say referee of the mind. And you are a referee of your mind, and I'm the referee of your mind. Because by calling you out, you know what just transpired, what just happened. People don't even know that they're reckless. They don't even know when they're tripping for so long. So, anyway, so, you know, knowing that, you replace your habits and addiction for something that be addicted to the Dhamma, be addicted to the teachings of Buddha, be addicted to the teachings and the practice. Why? Because it has direct clinical benefits, direct clinical experience that you can experience it right now. Like if I tell you to stop right now, close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, you can directly see the instantaneous peace and space within those 3 breaths. You can feel, wow, that was really relaxing. What other book out there, what other information you're going to read that you're able to directly experience peace, directly experience privacy, space, energy, control, right, proper control, sense of control. So anyways, if you were to ask, well, yeah, you know, Chidao's got 4 or 5 phones on him right now. What does he consume every day? And I consume good information, good research, medical research, psychological research. PsychologyToday.com, WebMD, Mayo Clinic. Our religious practice is mind and body. So that's exactly what you should study. You should study the mind and the body. That's it. And philosophy, you know, and sociology, and history, and psychology, you know, and you just jam it up. That's all I have been doing for the past 23 consecutive years. That's all I focus on. I've never been into Pokemon. I've never been to games. Because I felt like it was a waste of time. And the only role model I had was my father, who was just this guru and running around the house. He doesn't run. But I'm just like, why is this man so quiet, reserved, and wise? There is this profound sense of peace, you know, of his wisdom. The depth of his wisdom. And he's Catholic, you know, but he studied so much. He studied what needed to be studied. He practiced what needed to be practiced. So I was drawn by that peace. And you know, he calls me out on the things that I was doing. He's like, does that make you money? No. Is that conducive for your growth? No. And he's like, just remember, your capital is right up here. And he points to his head. And, you know, capital means good information. Valid, good information. So therefore, my whole life, I drawn towards non-fiction instead of fiction. And Maybe I'm just that person that seeks knowledge. A young kid with the old soul vision. So hopefully now you all are inspired by that. That you aim for wisdom, you aim for good information, you aim for the teachings of the Buddha that teaches you what is right, what is wrong, how to make good decisions, and start reprogramming your life, an orderly, disciplined life, so that you are a leader within yourself. And even if you want to fall in love down the road, whatever choice that you make, become a monastic or not, fall in love or not, you know, people will admire that. People will admire that. They admire the discipline. They admire, he knows his sense of purpose. He's deep, he is wise. Now you have created an impression for them to think about and ponder about when crap hits the fan. All crap will hit the fan in relationships or wherever. But because you live by these principles, because you live by discipline, it makes you stand out of millions, millions, and billions of people. But something about this one worth noting. Does that make sense? Versus the masses of the crowd who is asleep, who veer towards stupidity, who veers towards ignorance, willful ignorance, who veer towards not keeping the precepts, who goes for alcohol, who goes for drugs, who goes for sex, who goes for just the useless stuff that has nothing to do with figuring out who they are. Do you think using alcohol and drugs will help you figure out who you are? Do you think that stealing will help you figure out who you are? Do you think letting your anger proliferate will help you figure out who you are? You know, people don't ever stop to think about that. Got it. Got it. Got it. I got it. Right.
And even though like that is, you know, a more ripened state of a soul, like is it really fair to ask for a less ripened mango to be more ripened prematurely? Like, but then you don't want to encourage the green mango to stay green. So like, what's the healthy balance there?
Okay. I just put you on speakerphone there because we had a bunch of viewers coming in and they're like, what's going on? Why is it John so quiet in his little ear thing, earmuffs? Okay. So you first gave an example of an adolescent playing with a fire truck. And when the adolescent, okay, so adolescent, anyone under 25, we let them play with whatever it is that they want to play. Hopefully they kind of grow out of it through time. Because, you know, like my dad, when I was a little kid, he wanted me to be a leader. He wanted me to be in a position of power, authority. And so he dressed me up like a military man. He probably hoped that I was going to become like a 4-star general or something. It's no different than the Buddha's dad, wanted him to be a warrior, a leader in the Sakyan clan versus a holy man. So, like my dad, put all these military gear on me, a little pistol belt. And so for the longest time, I was like, why is it that I'm so drawn towards the symbol of a gun? and I'm like, why is it that I have this unique enthusiasm for particularly handguns? And I could never figure it out until later, when I found out my dad was a military lieutenant, and he was so well grounded and disciplined that he wants his son to be like that. So I tried to join the military, but my mom's like, you're the only child, don't do it. What if they blow you up and I don't have a son anymore? So I never went into the military, But yeah, I just hope that the adolescent figure their identity formation out, and then what is important moving forward is that then when they become young adults, that they grow and mature and have a heart. So the purpose of life is to find our gift and to give it back to society. Right now we have middle school children that is able to kill certain cancer in vitro. There's a girl that just developed, I think it was she developed something that could kill a cancer cell in vitro. So anyone that wants to put that on Google will find it. It's I don't know, maybe 8th grader. She's a black girl. It's so intelligent, and some kids have that in 8th grade, 6th grade, that they want to be an artist, they want to be a scientist, they want to be NASA. So that hopefully they find that gift and they want to give it back to society. And not to play too long and play too hard. That's why if you ever pay attention to my counseling sessions, there are adults out there that are like 50 years old and, still collecting cars and still don't know who they are. I don't care what they collect. I don't care what hobbies they're in, but they don't know who they are. So I'm like, Tom, don't you think that you played a little too long? Don't you think you played a little too hard? That's why we're here today at 55 years old. Tom? You know what I mean? Yeah. I had a manager that was on his 4th wife. And I was just like, wow, that's really rough. When I reflect on his life now, and I'm just like, I'll be damned if I have 4 wives at like 60 years old. That's really rough. I also know a woman who buried 4 husbands. She planted 4. The son says she planted 4. And that's what he used, his exact words. And I was like, oh my God, I just died just listening to them. And just the headache and the heartache of that, you know. I'm pretty sure there's explanations for that. But my hope for all of you proceeding forward is that, yeah, you get over the addiction, the preoccupation and the obsession with whatever, anime, fantasy, Dragon Ball Z, whatever the case may be. And then eventually the adulting process jumps in quickly. And however you were conditioned, and we use the framework of the Buddha, which is the framework of, is there excessive desire in your life? Is there excessive anger in your life? Is there anger because of that desire, getting what you don't want and not getting what you want? Does it lead to suffering? Using that framework to start asking the deep questions and then start to resolve. Because once these things are resolved, you can be your better, higher you, and then you can be more successful, make more money, and then do whatever it is that you want instead of being enslaved by that addiction, enslaved by that preoccupation or obsession. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. Okay, I'm gonna put you back on speaker. Because none of your questions has to do with you identifying markers with you, so it's privacy appropriate. So if you wanted to take you off speaker, let me know.
Okay. And that being said, like, I'll use whatever pronouns, but even if I use the word I don't necessarily mean myself. It's just the figure of speech, if it happens.
Yes.
So you're saying that hopefully, whatever you're doing, that you act not out of anger, not out of desperation, and you learn how to live the most graceful life. Is that, and hopefully it's through a medium that's good for good for the whole. Is that what you're saying? That you evolve to the point where,
all Buddhism is not harming yourself, not harming other people, give back in some way, shape, or form,
Yes.
and transcend suffering if there's an existent. Do nice things for random acts of kindness for others, contribute to your society so that you have a meaningful life. I mean, obviously, no one's going to say anything if your hobby is reading books and you want to sit there and read all the books in the world until you're 80 and then you clock out. You didn't do harm to other people. You didn't do harm for yourself or other people, and then you just wanted to sit there and collect books and read books all day long. But then the question would be like, well, what have you done? So this is what society's done for you. Society has manufactured books for you. Society has kept you safe by providing police protection. Society has given you free education. Society built houses for you. What have you done for society? It would be somewhat of a useless life to just sit there selfishly, self-centeredly, focus on oneself without engaging with that. Now, of course, I'm not going to hold people in contempt to do if that's their happiness and they're not messing with other people and not committing crimes. Hey, have at it, nice quiet world. Okay, yay. It's like, what can we settle for? Because there's so plenty of people out there who don't do that, who commit crimes and do the total opposite. A nuisance,
right.
A liability for society.
Yeah, so I guess I have two questions. One of them is assuming we subscribe, or let's say we subscribe to the idea of reincarnation and that there's younger souls and older souls. And so is it fair to, if we see an older person, who just lived a peaceful life, just reading books in his room all day long, didn't necessarily contribute nor harm society, just kind of a neutral, and we somehow is able to check the answer book and oh, he's his soul's relatively young. He's still nurturing, like in the nurturing stage of a soul. Like, is it fair to like give him a pass and be like, it's in this incarnation, or maybe in the previous incarnation he did a ton of work and he gets a break or something. Like at what point do we give like an okay for a neutral life?
It's okay either way. It's not our job to adjudicate people. You know, what they do is what they do. You know, like some animals, like you look at a fish in a fish tank. What is that fish? What is that fish doing? That fish is swimming around waiting to get fed, eat, poop, and sleep. I don't know how fish sleep, but you know, eat, poop, and swim around, look pretty in a tank, waiting for a bacteria to kill it. Because that can happen in a fish tank, whereas there are certain infiltrations or the birth of a bacteria that can really affect the water quality, and then they die. I get sad every time when I walk in my dad's office. I look at the suction cup, the filter, the suction filter, and then obviously you see a body of a fish, obviously being sucked right there, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, that fish clocked out. It went to nirvana.
Yeah.
So when we talk about humans, the same way, you know, 80-year-old man, like you said, who just wants to collect books and read them because he's, you know, not that developed or still stuck in the mind or whatever like that. Okay, well, he's gonna do his 8 and hit the gate, you know, and leave it at that. Enlightenment is for people who realize, what is going on around me? Why am I here? Why am I here reading these books? Why am I reading these books, by the way? And what they question. Well, where am I going to go when I die? Do I come back or not come back? And whether or not that is important to me if I do come back. And if I do come back, what do I come back as? And if I don't come back, where do I kind of like fly around in this universe or multiverse? Okay. Again,
so
it takes Buddhism is not for everybody. Buddhism is for the one that asks these types of questions. And we have the answer to that. We tell you where you're going to go. We tell you the potential and likely chance that you could go based upon the actions that you have taken, your previous suffering as the previous karmic actions, previous karmic debts, how that will propel you, you know what I mean? So it depends on how deep, philosophical, existential the person questions life and the afterlife. But if Tom, Dick, and Harry is happy with sitting there reading Harry Potter until they're 80 and clock out, hey, then they clock out. We bunks just sit back and have a cup of tea and realize exactly where they're going to go. So, yeah.
So when you hold teachings, or like whenever teachings are held, you can only really encourage growth from those who ask from it then.
I can only encourage...
Or like, can you... Sorry, go ahead.
No. You said can only encourage what?
Like, you can only really encourage growth for those who ask for it. Like, you can't... like, is the idea to really focus on those who have caught on, or like... you know, like, it's like, at what point do you? But then there's cases where you want to interject and like save the quote unquote save people. Like I just don't really know how to think about the way to engage with influencing the world or like teaching when, you know, part of this philosophy that we're talking about is like letting nature take its course. But at the same time, you know, there is this idea of like trying to push the mass, you know, multi-incarnational mass of souls into the right direction. You know, we're trying to like encourage this evolution. Like, how do we balance those two? Like, part of me is like, well, I want to teach CBT and Buddhism to everybody, you know, but then, like, on the other hand, it's like, well, maybe in this incarnation for them, they weren't meant to learn Buddhism. And so, like, how do we, I feel like those are opposing philosophies, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that or how you balance those.
Not everyone is at the same intellectual level. Not everyone is ready. Not everyone is developed. Not everyone is at the right age and stage right now for it. It's not our job to run around and propagate, evangelize.
Right.
Just look at the 1 million follower thing on my TikTok, and 95% of the population is asleep. They are asleep. They don't know what's going on. They eat, poop, sleep, and they work and they pay taxes and they don't question a lot of things. And they like entertainment. They like to play games. They like to smoke weed and be on the couch, and they don't want to think about the afterlife. They don't want to think about rebirth. They don't want to think about karma. They don't want to think about the past, depression. They don't want to think about tomorrow. It's too taxing. It's laziness. It's intellectual, it's willful intellectual laziness. They don't want to think about that, and that's okay too. That's okay too, as long as they're not harming themselves or other people. Right. In Buddhism, that's okay too.
Interesting.
Right. We again, on your quarter, 25-cent quarter in the United States, it says in Latin, e pluribus unum. What does that mean? It means out of many, one. Out of many, one. So therefore, out of the many and mass of the crowd, you'll know the one that comes to you and start asking questions about how to transcend suffering. What is suffering? What is the meaning of life? You know what I mean? That's the one that you pay attention to.
Interesting.
Right. So why do you think we're having this conversation, and why do you think I'm leaving St. Pete to come see you on Christmas? Because you were the one. You were the one that approached. You were the one, who came and wanted to ask what's going on.
That makes sense. It makes sense. And I think I'm guessing this question even came to mind because the way religions and philosophies have been packaged in the mainstream ways is so preachy and it's so shove it down your throat that I think I have the idea that is how religion is. That's the nature of religion, is there's a way of thinking and understanding the universe, and that we must convert other people to get them onto our boat to save them. But I don't think many of those religions, and I don't think Buddhism started that way. It was more voluntary. I have this understanding of the universe, and if you have questions and you're curious, you come to me and I can share you what I've learned. And it's the complete opposite of how a lot of religions are presented. So I think that's where I got confused.
Yeah. Really knock on people's doors. We monks to teach.
Yeah.
You literally have to invite a monk to teach. You have to ask for it. You can't. Monks just can't run around and be like, "Hey, how you doing? You know about suffering? Let me tell you about suffering." That's against the rules. So yeah.
But it's also kind of hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say it's also kind of heartbreaking. It reminds me of relationships where one of the partners more interested in self-growth or maybe more invested in saving their relationship through therapy or whatever, and the other partner is nah, I'm okay. But then that's heartbreaking. I think it's heartbreaking to see somebody caught in samsara, that somebody that you love get caught in samsara, and you understand, and maybe you were also in samsara at one point, and then you became aware, and you're able to be more mindful about the way you navigate around this. But then somebody you still love is still caught in it. That's a hard place to be.
A lot of people have self-doubts. I've had some close people die, that
Mhm.
obviously joined in on multiple live sessions of counseling, but I cannot.
Mhm.
The voice in their head, they live in their head, and for some reason they're like, well, this is my problem that I created. I can't get out of it. I can't get out of my own suffering. They don't have the courage to step into the howling wind
Yeah.
to deal with it and challenge it or ask for help. And subsequently they died. They took high risk. I've watched dozens of people die in my career as a monk. Dozens and dozens of people died. And just watching the train wreck in slow motion. It's no different than the Buddha watching his own monks also take foolish actions and die. And he just had to return back to his practice. This was in accordance to their own karma. You know, I can't save everybody, and it's not my job to save everybody. You can't. And the Buddha says no one can save you. No one can, and no one may. You have to save yourself, he said. So blessed are those who hear that. Blessed are those who understand that no one can save you. No one can, and no one may. And for the holidays, I know everyone prays a lot. And it's like, well, who are you praying to? What are you praying? And exactly when do you think somebody's going to answer that prayer? When you have act suffering right now, that you can do something about it. So, yeah, that's what's going on in the world with religion.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
We're 50 minutes away.
Okay. Well, on the topic of prayer, I think that there is a time and place and a function for prayer too, because there are times where I wish I had a concrete example, but I can't think of any at the moment. Like there are times where you feel completely hopeless, and when you've exhausted every option to change your circumstances, and maybe it's like a external circumstantial thing, and maybe it's like an emotional or psychological thing, and you've tried everything, and it just boils down to just like hoping, and then it boils down to just praying. Like I feel like there are times and situations where all you can really do is pray, and I feel like that can sometimes become the seed of change. Or do you like that's how I feel about praying? But I was wondering what your thoughts on praying was.
Yeah, praying gives people hope.
Mm-hmm.
It gives people hope. It buys people time for things to work.
Yeah.
For things to work itself out. And and people don't have the coping. They don't have the comprehensive coping skills and mechanism to deal with what's happening right now. And when you say when a person has exhausted all options, that's what we're postulating. We're guessing. We don't know for sure what that actually means for the individual at hand. What we think is I've done all that I can. You have to ask, did this person have a PhD in solving this particular type of problem? You know, because all therapy is just information. So, but sometimes you do run out of options, and sometimes you're just like, all right, well, God, what do you want me to do right now? What do you want me to do? And that buys people time, because the ones that take their lives is the one that don't know how to buy time, and they at the end of the road, and they're like, this is it. I got myself here. There's no cure to this problem. God is not going to come down and help me. I have a 38 in my hand, and this is what I'm going to do. So they clock out pretty quick, too quick. That's why there are suicide hotlines, so that it buys people time and let them know that it's not permanent. Whatever you're going through right now, sleep it off. Start again tomorrow more intelligently. There will always be avenues. One door shut, other doors will open. Just because it's shut doesn't mean it shuts forever. So, yeah, it just buys a lot of time. There's many functions in praying. I don't discount praying. I just don't want people to pray a little too long and not look at the intelligent and wisdom part and aspect of their life to solve their problems using intelligence. Praying too long can be a form of laziness. Praying too long can be a form of intellectual laziness. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that and I think courage. I imagine myself in that kind of like psychological trap where I feel like there's absolutely no way out. Choosing to stay there, I think, like I feel like at that point, like that's like a kind of courage that I think a lot of people have, and I think it's hard for people to understand that we're actually there. Like that's an incredibly difficult, desperate place to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, like even if there is like a logical, clear thing, sometimes like a logical answer, and you can like intellectually dissect it, and it's clear to you. It's so hard to actually do because at that point it's not an intellectual issue; it's an emotional thing, or maybe I don't know. I feel like not being able to act is not. It requires like a multifaceted kind of strength, like courage and emotional maturity and intellectual clarity and all these things.
What leads people to pray is that they've miscalculated out of desire. Out of desire, they got themselves into an impossibly complicated problem. Like, for example, people who go after money, and they're like, well, I'm going to go after money, and the way I'm going to go after money is by buying Bitcoins. But buying Bitcoins and trying to flip it, or waiting for the right time, you know what I mean? And then they miscalculate, and then they lose everything. And then they turn around and they pray, because they're like, well, I've lost everything, so I'm just going to pray to somebody, and hopefully I win the lottery tomorrow. No, that is not the most intelligent way to think right now. You lost everything because you miscalculated. You miscalculated out of greed and desire. So now you need to go out and get a job to keep the bills going so that you don't be homeless and gather yourself in the midst of this temporary despair right now.
Right.
So again, when you look at the anatomy and breakdown of why it leads to praying is because people miscalculate, and people miscalculate is due to the excessive desire and greed. Typically, this is the 99% of the root cause of the problem. So again, a wise person would never put themselves in a position where it may lead to prayer down the road because you took unwise, unskillful, untrained actions that you didn't think it through. You didn't draw this out. You didn't put a blueprint out. Obviously, our engineers who build our bridges, I would imagine they draw it out, a blueprint, the what ifs, and then they go according to plan. Is when you build a bridge recklessly, without a plan, without a blueprint, without a license. That's when things fall apart, and then you have no choice but now to pray that you've caused all of these deaths, and now all these deaths is on you, and now you have to answer to the Senate.
Yeah. Makes sense.
My name is Venerable Chidao, and I've been a senator for 20 minutes. But yeah, very easy figuring things out and the root cause of it and what will lead and transpire and backtrack. Of course, today you spoke about broad what ifs and broad, but that's my job, is to go into the specific details. This is what I deal with when students are like, I'm praying to Jesus right now because of my breakup. I'm like, yeah? Well, how'd you get here? It's all his fault. No, it's not. Listen, Laura, It's not all his fault. How did you contribute to this relationship? You know, I started breaking it down. I started analyzing. I started retracing the past, reconstructing the past. You know, it's a lot of fun doing Buddhist psychotherapy because they play all sorts of game and try to sidetrack me. And who are you fooling? You know, but eventually my job is to deconstruct and also give them hope, and to, you know, help people know that you miscalculated. You miscalculated another human. You thought you could trust him. So you thought you could trust her. You didn't do your homework. Did you ever run a background check? Did you ask how many relationships this person has gone through? Did you ask whether or not they get the drug and alcohol? So, yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty good questions to ask.
These are the typical questions. But, you know, I'm just taking one example out of many, you know, or some college students, you know, like they pick a wrong major and they graduate with a degree in being a doctor, and then they think that, yeah, it's a lot of money. Where and how, you know, and they didn't realize, you know, what hospitals were going to do to young doctors and make them work day in and day out, and burnout rates and their own practice and Medicare stuff and health insurance, you know, how Medicaid only pay like $30-$40 a patient, you know, whereas private insurance will pay like $100 and something for a patient. So why would you take Medicaid patient over, you know what I mean? So they didn't really fully do their homework. They fell into fantasy of I'm going to be this physician, a technician of the human body, in hope that I would make quick, fast money. It don't really turn out that way. Or some student wanted to be a police officer, and they're like, I want to run after people and jump out of windows. Yeah, okay, till they find out, yeah, when you draw your gun, that's 4 hours of paperwork, so sit and start writing. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize it entails so much paperwork. And it's like they pull over a car with like a lot of drugs in it, and they didn't realize that's 6-7 hours of paperwork, because now you need to make a case for the state attorney to prosecute. So did you test the cocaine, or was that baby powder? Yes or no? Which one was it? And they're like, oops, I didn't test it. So now this whole case is thrown out. So we wasted all this manpower, $4,000 worth of manpower on one traffic stop that you made. Oops. Yeah. So start praying, Jones. Start praying, Officer Jones. So, should I give you a break? 1 hour break before I arrive? 37 minutes till I arrive from all your questions? And you can pick my brain when I get there?
Sounds good.
I'm going to catch up with my conversation with Josh, who's driving. And then I'll see you in 37 minutes. Let's go grab something to eat, so I have energy to present you with the books. And yeah. Huh? How about it?
Sounds good. Thanks for chatting.
Thank you for choosing American Airlines.
Thank you.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of philosophical questions today from a new student who is new into Buddhism. So today I'm spending my Christmas visiting him. He's a thinker, obviously, a deep thinker. So I'm gonna go offline, and we'll be back after we get settled down in the city. So thank you all for joining and being wonderful listeners. Take care.